r/AskReddit, what became so popular at your school that the teachers had to ban it? Gel pens. When I was in primary school there was this weird trend where all the girls would suck on the ends of gel pens, so their tongues turned into different colors. They would trade pens with each other in the school bathrooms and sneak away from the teachers and go to hidden parts of the schoolyard so they didn't get caught. It was the closest I can think of comparing to a drug ring, but imagine it with 7-year-old girls. One of my friends was really popular because she was the girl who sucked on the most pens and would get caught in literally every class sucking on a different gel pen, and the teachers would always have to walk her out to the nurses. She'd make herself sick and throw up. They eventually banned them. I tried it once and spat it out immediately because it was nasty and tasted like ink. Duh. I didn't get it then, and I still don't get it now. There was a game called Get Down Mr. President where everyone in an area would put their fingers to their ears like the Secret Service, and the last person to do it would be tackled. It could start at any moment and would end up in a dog pile in the hall. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in my 30s, and now that I know that's a thing, I'm starting that crap at work tomorrow. I'm a teacher. A few years ago we had to ban applause. The kids would randomly start a round of applause and just keep going. It was unnerving. It was disrupting lessons, assemblies. Sometimes they would applause in the dining hall or corridors. Still don't know how this trend started or why. The other thing we had to ban was pilgrimage. They apparently learned the word in religious studies lesson. After that they would, in large groups, walk from one end of the school to the other chanting pilgrimage and basically knocking over anything or person that stood in their way. I don't know why, but I laughed for a good solid minute while reading this. In elementary school my class was divided into groups, penguins and rats. We would always go to our group for team assignments, for games, for anything really. Somehow an actual rivalry started to sprout until the whole school was divided in these two groups, with first and second years getting into actual fights and stuff. Pretty soon the principal cancelled recess for a day and went to each classroom to tell us penguin team and rat team were banned. Others did create some smaller animal named groups after that, but they all dissolved pretty quickly. Your elementary schools literally created gangs. LMAO. Grand Theft Education. In Sweden we had this thing called bög, translates to gay pile. As soon as someone was on the ground lying, everyone threw themselves on, making a pile of PPL. In Australia, that is called stacks on. We call it dogpiling in the US. Camo colors. They somehow banned it school-wide because they were gang colors. Camo gang. Edit. I went to high school in the southeast Columbus, Ohio area. Half Wane rednecks, quarter Wane hood, and quarter preppy kids. It was a dumb mix. And for the record, so many people complained the school actually had an assembly over it where they explained their reasoning, and I don't remember exactly what they said, but it had something to do with gangs. I think it was gang mentality or something. I was in middle school from 2009 to 2011. Bloons Tower Defense was huge. Everyone played it in any room that had a computer. The school had to install special blockers, but people kept getting around them, so they straight up banned Adobe Flash. Someone at my high school managed to install Quake 3 Arena onto the central server, so it was able to be accessed by any computer connected to the network. There were kids in my web development class playing against other kids having their study hall and the library on the other side of the school. Not sure if the administration ever found out, but the year after I graduated they changed out all of the Windows computers they had for iMacs. When I was younger, we played this where you draw a circle on your hand, and other people would try to draw a line inside of it. If someone was able to draw a line in your circle, then you were out. The objective of the game was to be the last one standing. It was small at first, but eventually almost everyone in my grade became involved, and it spiraled out of control. Chaos. Pure freaking chaos. Kids were tackling each other, running away from other students, disrupting lessons, etc. Teachers eventually began to talk to us about how far our game had gone, and started banning it altogether. It was fun, while it lasted, boys. Edit. Thanks for the silver and the upvotes. Reminds me of a really cool battle royal our school did during a school trip. We often had trips with the entire school, so it was class 7 to 12, approx 200 people. Everyone got a small letter with the name of a different student on it. You had to give that person an item. Any random crap. All that was important was that the item exchanged hands from you to said student willingly. If you managed this, said student would have to give you their name. The students with the most name letters at the end of the week would get a prize. Best game ever. So much paranoia, so much fake friendliness, etc. For example, someone gave out some sweets. Everyone took one. Suddenly he was like, frick yeah. The entire point of giving everyone sweets was to get that one person who was in his vicinity to take one. If anyone asked you, hey, wanna have a bonbon, everyone was like, nope, forget it. Because they thought it was a poor attempt at them. I also remember having a letter suddenly come through the door addressed at me that said come to this and that room at this time, and when I arrived it was my best friends who called themselves the Dark Brotherhood and made a plan where we would exchange letters to better plan our targets. Hair flips. Circa 2003, long skater hair was very trendy. Said kids were flipping their hair out of their eyes/face. An 8th grade history teacher went on a vendetta under the reasoning that hair flips pollute the air with hair dirt. Kids started getting detentions. Edit, went. That's a really stupid pretense, but I can understand why the teachers got annoyed with a room full of kids flipping their hair, like they have Tourette's syndrome. My teachers in high school just mercilessly mocked the hair flippers until they knocked it off. The hair flippers discovered that it drove the teacher mad, so they began flipping it consciously to piss her off. She created her own monster. Rulers. Year 10th in HS, for whatever reason someone decided to smack a guy across the head with a ruler. Then everyone went out and bought a ruler. Suddenly everyone was a knight with a sword. Staff kept confiscating them, but rulers are cheap, so kids just went out and bought them by the handful. They ended up banning rulers at a school. The kids who were taking geometry that year and needed them had to be assigned rulers at the beginning of class and then turn them back in. If you rub the metal edge of a ruler against the sole of your shoe really fast back and forth, it gets hot enough to seriously burn someone and leave a scar. A kid did that to me back in 8th grade. Hurt like hell and left a mark that took a decade to fade. I was pissed. Rubber bands. Kids weren't even using them to shoot at other kids or otherwise misbehave with them. Kids would buy packs of rubber bands, tie the rubber bands together, making like a big rubber band chain. It became a contest to see who could get a chain of rubber bands to stretch the farthest. You couldn't find a pack of rubber bands at a store for probably 20 miles. This was when I lived in a small town, so there wasn't a ton of stores in that 20 miles. Amazon or even public internet access didn't exist yet. One kid got so many rubber bands, they could stretch it the length of the school building. While stupid, I didn't think it was a bad hobby as kids weren't shooting them or shooting stuff with them. It was all about how big of a chain they could make. School rewarded our pointless creativity with a ban on rubber bands at the school. All rubber band chains were confiscated on site. Capri Suns. Kids were too stupid to figure out how to get the straws in, and teachers got tired of helping everyone. I was in high school when cell phones finally became accessible enough for most people to have one. It took about a week of senior year for them to declare that no phones were allowed anywhere on school property. Same for my class. But now kids literally have theirs out at their desks using them, and the teachers are compliant. Yeah. The handbook still says no phones allowed, but that's just not a thing anymore. Kids are usually respectful enough not to use them when the teacher is lecturing, but after the lesson is done they're all out. Always, everything. Our class president freshman year ran on making them allowed during lunch, and that turned into they're allowed at all times. By junior year we became a tech-friendly campus, and now we have school Wi-Fi, and you're allowed to bring in any device you want. Laptop, tablet, whatever. Putting condoms on everything. Pens, people's heads, arms, bags, shoes, smartboard remotes, baseball bats, clocks, balls, literally anything. The best bit was that the school gave out free condoms. They were fueling the opposition. After a week, There was a ban on condoms being out in public. Anyone seen with a condom that wasn't in their bag or blazer was immediately given a detention. Warheads. It grew to such an issue with these sour candies. Kids were organizing a black market where the kids with the highest allowance would buy them in bulk from the corner stores for a nickel each, distribute them to upperclassmen for a quarter each, who would turn around and sell them to the final consumer for 50 cents each candy. There was even a barrier to entry. If you wanted in the business, you would have to eat 3 candies at once and not spit it out or throw up. Warheads are the real gateway into drug dealing. Subscribe for more Reddit reply videos.